Hey, how are you guys doing? See how many people are going to show up on the stream? Last minute stream. This is a Sunday night stream, so it should be a good stream. Hope everything is well. Welcome. We're back on the bokeh camera here. Amazing hand bokeh. All right, so we'll see how many people show up for the stream. We check, see what's going on with the stats. All right, people are starting to get on. That's good. It's good. It's good. So I hope everything is well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the subject very quickly. Give me a thumbs up if you like this stream. It's good for the algorithms. And yeah, let me just jump into it. So this is going to be a piece of advice I think that a lot of people, let me rephrase that. This is a piece of advice I think would apply to everybody, but it's going to help you in your, in every aspect of your life, not only just being a developer. So in my thumbnail, I say, be like a duck, not like a snake. So what am I talking about here? So first of all, I addressed the snake issue in a previous video where I talked about how if you are an open developer, a developer is willing to help others, not be a black box about what you're doing, the code that you write, you're going to become a much more valuable person in the team. So if you want to advance in your career, one of the things you got to do is you got to be open about your skills and your knowledge. You got to be willing to help out the team, to go around and be the go-to guy or girl that people respond to, so that they're going to want you around. So you don't want to be a snake. You don't want to hide your stuff, and you don't want to make your code unnecessarily complex, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about the duck thing. So one of the things I've noticed in this, it goes way beyond coding and stuff. People are very, very, very sensitive these days. Not everybody, but some people are very, very sensitive. And I'm dancing on the edge of politics here, but not really, because here's a great piece of advice. If you want to advance in your career, if you want to be successful in your business, in many aspects of your life, you have to become like a duck. There's an old expression, water off a duck's back. That's actually an old expression. Let me just see if I can find it here. Here it is. Water off a duck's back. You say that criticism is like water off a duck's back, or water off a duck's back, to emphasize that it is not having any effect on the person being criticized. All criticism is water off a duck's back to me. So, what are we talking about here? I find that people are too quick to be offended by things. If you are like that, you are putting yourself at an extreme disadvantage. Let me say that again. If you're somebody who is offended by what other people say or do, you are literally putting yourself at extreme disadvantage. You're putting them in a position of power. So, my advice to you, what I've learned is that when you want to succeed in life, you want to be happy in life, whether you want to have just a much more calm lifestyle and psychology, you got to just sort of not be offended by things, not to be perturbed by things. Easier said than done. My Lizard Wizard course will help with that training. But I'm telling you, if you do that, if you learn to, I'm not saying don't be oblivious to criticism. Sometimes it's good to listen to criticism, especially if it can help improve yourself. But I'm telling you, as a developer, or as a human being, really, if you can learn to be less offended by things, you will be much better off in your life. And it's like having a superpower. Yeah, so that's my advice. So number one, don't be a snake. I talked about that in a previous video. You want to be open with your knowledge. You want to try to help people out around you. If you do that, people are going to go out of their way to want to help you, and they're going to want to work with you, and that's how you're going to advance your career. And another way you're going to advance your career as a developer is to not let things get to you. Don't let things bother you. It's whether you're learning how to code, and I know how that is. It could be a frustrating process, no question about it. And maybe in the workplace, maybe things bother you about what people are doing or saying. As silly as it may sound, people will get offended by what programming language you use or what operating system you use. I've seen people go totally mad, screaming, yelling, arguing about macOS versus Windows. It was really, you don't see that these days anymore, but boy, you used to see that back in the 90s. It was pretty incredible. The Apple people used to have a beef against Windows people. And it probably stemmed from the fact that Steve Jobs was angry that Microsoft basically copied macOS in terms of the windowing features. But of course, Steve Jobs, I guess he forgot that they copied Xerox. So anyway, people used to go nuts about that. Now they don't anymore. They go nuts about other things. Yeah, so there you go. That's a very short lesson. Now I'll do a little Q&A. Try not to let the little things bother you. Try not to be offended by things. When you let other people's actions or other people, what you hear out there, offend you, you're just putting yourself under their power. They are exerting power over you because they're exerting emotional control over you by triggering you. Don't be triggered. Don't be triggered. That's my 2 cents of advice there. So what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of I'll do a little bit of Q&A now, and then we'll see how it goes. All right. It's only 6 minutes. A quick one. I'm trying to shorten my streams and do a little bit more. So let me just get to some questions. And say, all right, how you guys doing? Hola. How are ya? How are ya? All right. What's up? I'm pretty good. What's up with you, Henry Major? Oh, I got a super chat, so I will address the super chat. What's going on here? Compare yourself to the man you were yesterday and strive to be the person you want to be tomorrow. Always have realistic goals and do what's best for you as a person, then your family, then your community. Dan Gurkovic. I never heard of this guy, but yeah, that's true. That's a good advice. I heard, I think Peterson talked about that as well. He said, compare yourself to yourself yesterday. Because you can't, it will drive you nuts to compare yourself to somebody who's been doing something for years and you're just starting out, and it's pretty depressing. So compare yourself. As long as you've done better, you're doing better the next day than you did the previous day, you're making progress. Even if you can improve your coding skills, your communication skills, I don't know, your health, your weight, even if you can improve it by 0.5% a day, or 0.5%, let's say 1% a week, at the end of the year, you've already improved your position by 50%. So yeah, you don't need to make these huge moves. It's about little incremental moves, and you move the ball forward down the field, to use a football analogy, American football analogy. Yeah. So let me go back. We'll see what we got. Hey, hello, Scotty. How are ya? How are ya? Hello. Duck, go. No. Hello, 169-year-old Stef. Hey. How are ya? Yeah, trust me. I used to be a bouncer and a fighter. I've been in a lot of street fights in my day, and things used to get on my nerves. I stopped all that a long time ago. Yeah, life's a lot easier. Hello, by chance I was reloading YouTube and came across a live stream from Mr. Stef. Hey, well, thanks for joining the stream, Larry. Mr. Larry Dev. Yeah, no ego. When you have no ego, it's interesting. It actually means you have extreme confidence. The analogy I like to make is if a 4-year-old kid comes up to you and calls you a stupid poopy face, are you going to be offended by that? If a little 4-year-old kid starts insulting you or is crying, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna, oh, poor kid, right? Of course, if you are offended by that and you're an adult, then you got some major problems. But most people, the vast majority of people, would not be offended by a little kid calling you names, right? If it's funny. That's because you're very confident vis-a-vis the child. So if an adult starts calling you names or starts insulting you, if you have a very confident self-image, it's like water off a duck's back, you know? It's old, ancient knowledge. It works. Hey, Stef, macOS or Windows? I've used both. These days I tend towards macOS because of the apps that I use, because of the ecosystem I'm in, but I've had both for long. I've, probably equal. And I've actually done some Linux too. I found that water off a duck's back is way easier when you do regular cardio training. So important. Yeah, being in shape actually helps with your mood. It helps to smooth things out. So being in shape really helps a lot. If you have a bit of a gut, you can't run a block, can't do push-ups, do yourself a favor and get in shape, you know. You don't have to be buff, but, just get capable. I'm learning C++ in university. What would you like to suggest? Write a little bit code every day. When you're learning to code, the most important thing you can do is write code every day, even if you don't understand the code. Good advice. Will not be triggered. You, your family, community, world. Quack, quack. Hey, Trey, how are you? I like your avatar, by the way. It's cool. Stef, here from Arkansas. Bought your course on Python. We'll be starting my 3rd week in the course, and I'm really enjoying it. Once I'm done with the course, we have the skills to get an entry job. See, Python is such a broad thing that then you would have to find where you're going to specialize in Python. Potentially, but you may want to start, what you're going to do the Python course, number 1, finish that. And then what I would do is start looking around for Python jobs in your area and see what they're looking for. Because you may find Python scripting, where then you might be able to do it. But maybe you'll find Python web, Python server-side with Django, or you know what I mean? So there is, it depends on the type of work. But doing the Python course is the hardest part. What you're doing now is the hardest, because you're learning new ways of thinking. So keep going, man. You're on your way. Yo, how are ya? Sup. How are you? What's that? How do we say that? Kapun kap. There we go. No, it's us. Thank you. Actually, Thai. Good morning. Hello. What do you think of Web 3.0? Yeah, I looked at it briefly. In principle, I like the idea, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, because I don't, maybe, but it's going to take a while if it ever matures. Hey, how old are you really, Stef? 169? I don't know. That seems pretty credible to me. I bought your Studioweb course a few years ago. Whoa. And have been trying to complete it 2 times already, but I keep getting burnt out and don't complete it. Any advice on not getting burnt out? Yeah, what you got to do is you got to implement my 20-minute a day rule. I got like in the mentoring group, I added in a section on how to learn effectively. I'll see about it, integrating that into the standard Studioweb course material. The beginnings of it is 20 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week. Just go back, start over again. Just discipline yourself. I'm going to do 20 minutes a day. Even on the days you don't feel like it, just do that 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, if you're like, I don't want to do this, then you've done your 20 minutes. You can go forward. Come back the next day. 4 to 5 days a week. You got to get, and maybe, let's say you do Monday, Tuesday, take a Wednesday off. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, take a Sunday off. You also got to give yourself some breaks. Similar to Mac Windows debate is the great Ruby Scratch debate. Both are equally great. JavaScript or PHP? It's neither. It's both. Once you learn how to write code, server-side code in JavaScript or server-side PHP, for you to pivot from one to the other is not a big deal. It's not an either or. It's both. When you become an experienced developer, you will say, okay, what's the job I'm doing here? And given the needs of the job, what am I going to do? What language I'm going to choose for that particular job? That's how it works, really. All right. Let's see. Francisco says, in your experience, when is the best time of the day to exercise? Because of what I used to do in martial arts, I used to train after work or after school. So I would train in the late afternoon, early evenings. But I don't know what the latest medical science is on that in terms of when to train. Some people would say it's good to train in the morning, get the energy going in the body. You would have to look up, see what the latest research is. I'm sure there's better times of the day to train, but I think the more important thing is that you just do a little bit of consistent training. If whether you do 20 minutes in the morning or half an hour in the morning or 20 minutes at night or half an hour, it's better if you do something. Let's assume you decide you're going to train in the evenings, half an hour, an hour. Let's say half an hour every other day, just to make it easy to start. And you find out that, oh no, I should have done it in the morning. But it's better to train in the evenings than not to have trained at all, right? So I would say just start training, look into it. I just learned the basics of Python with the Python Crash Course book. I'm planning on learning SQL and Python libraries. Anything to mention? So I'm looking for data analyst internship. What you should do is jump into just databases. SQL is the language of relational databases. It's short for structured query language, which means a language that is structured for making queries. Now, queries is a fancy nerd way of saying asking questions. So the structured query language is a language as I just say, it's the language of relational databases. So if you want to learn that, jump into learning how to design a database first, a relational database. And then from designing that, then you learn the SQL language. So start with that, just basic, tables and basic relationships and so forth, and, keys and so on, just basic stuff. When are the Studioweb NFTs coming out? Uncle Stef Vocal Club. Yeah, that's it. Best vocal game in the city. Hey, wait a second. Did you get my hand? There we go. All right, good stuff. Have you heard of people making a career in Python by automating business process? Yeah, I have actually. A friend of mine worked for an animation house, and they had a bunch of rendering. They had a render farm, which is basically a bunch of computers networked, and they managed the whole thing via Python script. So they had a couple, I don't know what it was, 2 or 3 full-time Python coders who would write Python scripts all day to manage to automate the processes vis-a-vis video rendering and 3D rendering. I'm going good, Paul. How are you? I recognize you now. It's the glasses that threw me off. No glasses in the last stream. Hi, Stef. I want to possibly buy a Mac M1 Mini 8 gig. Will this be sufficient for front-end development and photo editing? Yeah, actually, more than sufficient, I would imagine. More than sufficient. If you can squeak it out to get 16 gig, that would be even better. But 8 gig should handle it. M1s are groundbreaking computers. No question about that. If you like my stream, please give it a thumbs. Please give it a thumbs. Wait. But Web 3.0 already, we don't even finish Web 2.0. Yeah, Web 3 is a way to get around, if I recall, some of the censorship issues and so on. The problem is the web is so big now, Web 2.0 is so big, that it would be hard to get people outside of that context. Could happen, though. Hey, what do you think about the Craig Wright case on November 1st proving Satoshi's 1 million Bitcoin? I don't know about that. I never heard about that. That guy, if Satoshi is a real person, he's got 1 million Bitcoins. That's pretty good for that guy. Herfos about the code. We salute you. Yeah, very good, very good. He's the comment of the night for the ACDC reference. I approve. It's one of my favorite bands. When I was first learning Thai boxing, back in the 80s, my God. Back in the 80s, I was Thai boxing was just coming to North America. So I did a little bit of Thai boxing. I was a kid. I was very, like, I don't know, I was pretty young. And I remember after Thai boxing, that's what I would listen to. I would listen to ACDC all the time, including For Those About to Rock. Yeah. Strange that you bring that up, because a whole lot of Rosie is very relevant to me recently. Scrapping products to sell is my actual goal with Python. Scraping products, scrapping. Why not? See what happens. That's the cool thing about that language. There's so many modules, there's so many libraries that you can leverage. There's so much you can do. I assume that the sound and the video is clear enough for you guys. Any advice to get a co-op job internship? Yeah, just start applying. And just hit the bricks, meaning, hit the street, that doesn't sound good. Hit the bricks. Basically, go out there, knock on doors, and try to align your resume with the type of work that they want, What's the difference between developer and programmer? There's a minor... They're used interchangeably today. If I wanted to get nitpicky nerd about that, developer versus programmer, a developer is somebody who literally builds a system. A programmer may not necessarily build a system. They may be just writing scripts and automating systems, stuff like that. A developer actually builds a system, a piece of software. But it's really a distinction without much of a difference, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Just finished the project 2 for Python class. It was a text-based game project. Very cool. No problem. We are now working on classes for the last chapter. Yeah, I don't know if you're talking about my course or not, but yeah, I teach classes, object-oriented. I teach game creation with text-based game. Links below. How are we doing for time? Good. Is it legal to scrape companies' email and phones from the web? That's a good question. I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Google does it, right? As long as it's on the public web, you can access it. So if you can access it, via a web browser, I guess it wouldn't be wrong to access it by programming. Well, Google, any search engine does that. So I would think that you are in the clear. I'm not familiar with the Western Governors University. Hey, Stef, great to see you. Always great advice. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for joining the stream. Is it possible to web design with other low-level languages? Not web design. When it comes to web design, which is basically front end, it's HTML5, it's CSS3, and JavaScript. Yeah, there you go. For server side, you got a whole bunch of opportunities there, Should I strongly type in app's first pass or save it till 2, 3, or 4th pass when using TypeScript Angular? I always get lazy after long sessions with types. That's an interesting question. I haven't used Angular, so I don't have an answer on that. What you're discovering is oftentimes theoretical best practices get thrown out the window when you're writing production code. Sometimes you gotta write quick and dirty code to get the stuff out. Hey, Steph, do you know much about drop shipping on Shopify? Never done it. What is better, Flask or Django as backend for website with ecom features? I couldn't say, but all I know is that Flask is much lighter and lightweight and easier to work with. I would just do a Google search, Flask and ecom. I would imagine you can use Flask to build most stores that you'd probably be involved with. So if you wanted to get something out quick in terms of a new store, which you always want to do, anything new, you want to get it out quick, I would probably lean towards Flask, unless you find that I would be surprised if you couldn't build a little e-commerce shop with Flask. Yeah, yeah. Do you have any recollection of the old Silk Road and how Bitcoin was used for that black market economy? Yeah, I remember that. That's years ago. I never hear the association today's talks of crypto. Yeah, because it's gone mainstream. Speaking of Bitcoin and Web 2 and 3.0, makes me think about choosing a node to run as far as consensus and decentralization. Yeah. Listen, I like the concept. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not sure how widely adopted it's going to be. That's all. It's very difficult to replace old established technologies with new. The new technologies have to be significantly better. That's for sure. Let's say, I would say the developer has better software design skills. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. Hey, morning, Mr. Kumar. Welcome to the stream. All right, what's going on here? Like you can have someone who knows how to write Python, and that's a programmer, but a developer knows how to design a Python system, and so a developer typically delegates to programmers. Yeah, I can live with that description, I suppose. No problem. I don't know. Look up the job listings. See what's up with that. Are you back on coffee? Thought you gave it up. Yes, I'm able. This is not coffee, by the way. It's just water. But I am back on coffee. I gave it a break for about how long did I give it a break for? A month. About a month off. All right. Can you patent code you write or the process of doing something with code? I'm not a patent lawyer, but I don't think you could patent code. But it's definitely copywritten. So it's not patented, it's copywritten. But how strong that copyright is, they would have to rip off source code from you directly. Or the process of doing it. You can patent a process, I believe, but you would have to talk to an expert about that. I am not a patent lawyer. Most of the time, though, these days, the value in the IP is wrapped up with the value of the business. Like, for example, Facebook, it's code base, it's very valuable, but really its value is the network, its name, its traffic on its site, and same thing with Google and so on. What do you think about the fast API framework for Python? Haven't used it, so I don't have an opinion. I'm slow this week. I put in like 3 solid 8-hour days, not like to be rushed, but it was like 20 hours recommended minimum per week. I say 20 minutes a day minimum, 4 to 5 days a week, and you end up doing a lot more. Yeah, you got my little. I was playing around with that a little bit. Developers shouldn't be like snakes. Does this rule out Python? Love the stream. I appreciate it. Yeah. So let me just recount that. So what I'm talking about is basically, be like a duck. It's an old expression. Water off a duck's back. Old expression, goes way back, and it basically teaches a very important lesson where you live a better life. You have an easier time if you are not so easily offended by things, whether it be direct insults or whatever. If you can develop that thick skin, you will be doing yourself a favor. In boxing, one of the things we wanted to do with an opponent, you wanted to get them emotional. You want to get them scared, or you want to get under the skin. That's a classic thing. They want to get the opponent angry. Why? Because when you're fighting, people who are emotional are at a disadvantage typically. So why put yourself at a disadvantage and be offended by things or be insulted by things? Be like a duck. Let the insults drip off your back like water. Yeah. All right. Bashar. Hey, Stefan, I used to code in C and some assembly. Ooh, low-level stuff there, buddy. When I was a teenager on Linux, but I've been away for years and honestly forgot a lot since I didn't practice. Does worth it to start again 2021? Well, if that's what you want to do, Bashar, sure, it will come back to you. You know, once you start writing a bit of code, it may take you a few days, it'll start coming back to you. So, do you use HTML templates or do you have graphic design skills? For me, graphic design is my roadblock. Use templates. You can learn basic principles of design, like I talked about, and I think I teach it in my courses. It's been a while since I looked at them, but yeah, I do. Like alignment, white space, font use, color schemes. If you just follow some basic rules of design, stay within a color space. Make sure everything is aligned. Have lots of breathing room in the space. Proper use of fonts. Sans serif fonts for body text. You can use serif fonts for headline text. These are basic rules. You follow these rules, the page will look clean. And that's the beginning of it. I kind of suggest you always, like your code, you design your pages so they're very simple. Simple layouts, simple alignment. So all you have to do is put one logo or one image and it sets the whole stage. If you have a very complex design, then it's very hard to make it, to balance it, to make it look good. Same thing in software development, by the way. You want to have simple, easy to understand code. How are we doing? We're doing okay, 30 minutes. Okay, I'm going to be wrapping up the stream. The accomplishment feeling is worth it. Super great feeling when you see it coming together. Take breaks when you need to, though. Sometimes I don't take enough breaks. Yeah, it's good to take breaks. Remember, when you're learning a code or anything else, it's like training. You got to, weightlifting. You got to give yourself some time to rest, right? Can you explain methods in JS? Methods in JS. They're just chunks of code wrapped up in a package. That's it. Yeah. And they do something. They have a method. They have a function. Yeah, there you go. That's in a nutshell. So just think of them as little packages of code, little engines inside the big engine, which is JavaScript. Take my course. You'll learn all about it there. In your opinion, what programming language should someone start with? I like either teaching the web stack, so that means JavaScript or Python. Yeah. Okay. When do you turn 170 years old? That's the secret. Never about a first job, web job. It's entry level, but I question my skills even. Nervous. Excuse me. I'm getting a little tired, so I didn't read that right. Let me try again. Nervous about a first job, web dev job. It's entry level, but I question my skills, even though I've been doing HTML, CSS, and JS every day for months. Any advice? Yeah, don't worry. Your first job and your first 2 years, in fact, of development are your learning years. So just keep writing code. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't ask too many questions and bother people. And research. If you don't have the answer, that's okay. Google is your friend. You'll probably wind up on Stack Overflow a lot of times. And just write the code. Just keep writing the code. Don't worry about it. It will come. And I'm pretty sure they know where you are now. I did not watch that fight. I intend to watch it, though. Everyone has a plan until they're hitting the nose. Yeah, that's true. Hey, Stef, thanks for all the good advice. Is Drupal developer still a good career today? I don't know. You would have to look up the Drupal jobs, see what the Drupal jobs availability. As far as I understand, Drupal has lost some of its old mojo, although it's a very powerful content management system. I've looked at it in the past. So it is drooping in that regard. So I think I know WordPress is taking over there. But take a look at the job opportunities. Just go to Indeed.com and see if there's any Drupal jobs. You might find a lot of opportunity. Is web development going to die in the next 10 years? No. Or will demand increase even more? I think the demand is going to increase even more. I've been saying this for a while. I think it's going to continue to increase because the web platform is universal. You can do web, you can do responsive, you can do mobile, cross-platform mobile, you can do desktop apps on Windows now. Companies will always gravitate towards a technology where it has where you can deploy on multiple platforms without having to maintain multiple code bases. So yeah, I rewrote a Python app in C++ that does the ANSI, I guess that's ANSI, conversion. I got 50 times speed. I can consider myself a real-time C++ dev. And there you go. Yeah, well, let me tell you, Python isn't so quick. In fact, a lot of Python will directly connect to C, right, and C++. Where to start in self-teaching AWS? I'd probably get a book or find a good course and take it from there. You might want to check out Amazon's site on AWS, see what the resources are there. Hello. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining. How difficult will it be for me to go through a Python library? Depends on the library. Some of the modules are very simple and some are very complex. Second question, in the next 10 years, will the dev salary decrease massively? No, they will increase, I think. Seems like everyone wants to be a dev now, or will the salary increase significantly? I think the salaries will increase because though there's more people getting into development, the demand is going up even faster. So I think you're in a good situation. Yeah, right. Thanks for joining the stream. After my research, I think our partner is around 45 years old, maybe more. I think our partner is around 45 years old, maybe more. All right, so I got to the end of the questions. That's the first, I think. That's it. So let me just recap what I said at the beginning. I said be a, what did I say here? Yeah. Be a duck, not a snake, meaning don't let try not to let things offend you. When people are offending you, you're basically relinquishing control over your own emotions. You're giving them control when you get offended by people. So don't be offended by people. It's going to put you in a much better position. Your cognitive capabilities will be higher. You'll be able to think more clearly. And why relinquish your power to somebody else by getting offended? Don't get offended. And don't be a snake, meaning be open and free. Be willing to share information with people around you. Be willing to help people. And you'll succeed very much so in your work. All right, I own a pizzeria, e-walk full-time to serve my clients. In free time, I learn programming. What do you think I can do to enrich my curriculum without having to run for a tech job right now? It's my dream. I work full-time and serve my clients. I own a pizzeria and work full-time. So you want to sell your pizzeria? What do you think I can do to enrich my curriculum? What I would do is I would maybe think of build a website for your pizzeria. I don't know if you have a chain or if you have a franchise in a chain or if it's an independent pizzeria. If it's independent, maybe work on improving your website. Learn the skills to improve your website. Do something practical. And that will give you some incentive to learn what you need to learn to execute on whatever it is you want to do. So maybe build a site for your pizzeria. Maybe build a mobile app for your pizzeria. Have something real to do. You know what I mean? No, I am not. I was very long in the tooth as a programmer before Hacktoberfest ever was invented. Any recursion tips? Not off the top of my head. Just try a bunch of examples and play with them. This guy's a definition of the master senior Chad developer. I appreciate that. Good thing you said so, too. Yeah. What are your thoughts on degrees? I know degrees don't matter as of now, but will a degree be required a few years from now? No, I think degrees are losing their value in the tech space. I can tell you, I'll give you a couple pieces of data point to defend that position. Number one, Google came out about a year ago and said, if you want to become a developer, don't get a degree. Google said this, Google. A couple years prior to that, Apple, IBM, and I believe Google, definitely Apple, but a few big tech companies studied their employees, and they found that there was no difference in quality with an employee, whether or not they had a degree, right? So my general advice for people who look at degrees, if it is not free, don't do it. So if you're going to debt, don't do it. Student loan debt should be feared. Feared. It is pernicious stuff. And because you can't get rid of it through bankruptcy. And people are trapped in debt slavery. And it's not an exaggeration. There's many types of slavery in history, and one of them was indentured servitude. Indentured servitude. And they made that illegal, 100-something years ago. So basically what they would do is they would trap somebody in a debt, and they couldn't get rid of the debt. So they have to work to get rid of that debt, and they couldn't quit until they finished paying off the debt. That was indentured servitude, and there's different variations of it and so forth. So student loan debt is similar in the sense that you can't get rid of it. Whereas if you run up $250,000 in debt or $500,000 in debt and your business fails, you just go bankrupt and that's it. A year later, 7 months later, you're free and clear of the debt, and you can start again. And that's actually a good innovation that unleashed capitalism, which unleashed modern society. But for some reason, the politicians decided 30 or 40 years ago they forgot history, I guess, and they decided to create student loans so that they were non-dischargeable through bankruptcy. So you have to fear, don't go into debt for software development or anything like that. Don't do it. If it's free and you got the time, sure, having a degree could open up a few doors still. But those doors, the number of doors, exclusive doors rather, that you have because of a degree are becoming less and less relevant these days. So if I were you, I would not do it unless it was free. So there you go. That's my take on that one. Linux or Windows? Depends on the apps you want to use. It's all app dependent. These days, I think all the operating systems, the major ones, Linux, Windows, macOS, they all have their pros and their cons, and really depends on your use case. It's kind of like a Porsche 911, a Jeep, or a plane. Depends what you want to do. Or a boat, right? If you're going to drive down the highway, you probably don't want a boat, Mishra, do a YouTube poll for which, Stefan Mishra, for which commonly used OS. That would be interesting. I did a poll a couple months back, and 4,000 of you guys answered, and 80% said they were already coding, which is interesting. So only 20% were new to code. So I seem to attract a more advanced audience here, a more sophisticated audience. What's going on? Greetings. How are you, man? Good to see you again. Old faces. All right. What are your thoughts about code tests that precede potential interviews at big tech companies, especially since most positions don't have you explaining a stack queue to a client or a dev team? Yeah, well, I never did that kind of code test stuff. I didn't believe in that. That's kind of like a cheap way for me. It's kind of cheap in the sense that it doesn't necessarily express that you have good development skills. I would just ask questions. It's what you do if you have an HR department and it depends on who you talk to. I was talking to a friend. I don't believe in them personally, but some companies do. And I remember a friend of mine. He's actually a pretty senior developer, a pretty decent sized company, and he'll test certain new recruits, but he doesn't believe in test either. He'll put questions to them, give them a project to do. Okay, do this little project and come back in 4 days and look at the code and so on. And other people in his company, they believe in tests. So it depends who you catch, I personally don't believe in tests. What I would do is I would ask you good questions, see if you ask me good questions. And then if I saw that you were able to give good answers, verbally, then I would throw a little project at somebody. Do this and see what they do, see what they come back with. Because, it's hard to test. There's so much in software development that you may test for things that this guy or girl never did, and they would fail that because they just never did that. But they may be really good in something else that you're not testing for. And a lot of times these tests don't align with what they're actually going to do at the job. Case in point, algorithms and data structures. A lot of big companies test for this now because I bet you it's because of Google. Google was testing for data structures and algorithms. Why? Because they're a search engine. If you're developing and optimizing a search engine, very advanced and efficient algorithms make sense. Having very efficient data structures and understanding nuances of different types of data, having a nuanced understanding of data structure makes sense for a search engine. But for 99.9% of development, that stuff is not really relevant at all. It's about project management, it's about code refactoring, good design, good best practices, and that kind of stuff. Basic security. But a lot of companies, because Google was testing for algorithms and data structures, they say, that's what we're going to do too. But yeah, you're developing web apps, dude. Yeah, but Google does that. It's not the same. It would be testing somebody if they could swim when you want them to run track, It's anyway. Don't get me started here. The government didn't forget because it's their money, loan sharking. Well, in my opinion, it's a complex thing. It's a complex thing. I won't get into it right now. I'm so lucky there's public education in my country. I'm studying computer science now. If it's free, then take it for sure. Can't hurt. Why people hate PHP? Because people are not informed. PHP in early days was a real messy language. They favored ease of use rather than clean code and consistency and security. And because a lot of people who got into PHP, they weren't programmers. So a lot of early PHP code, we're talking PHP 3 and 4, it was really messy stuff. But that is a long time ago. Everything has changed since then. But that was, interestingly enough, that was the good strategy. Look at PHP, they're so dominant, right? They're so dominant. So there you go. It's kind of like Windows. Windows was a buggy crap in the early days. Like, they had the good enough principle. Let's get it out the door. Because they know that once people use a language or somebody uses an operating system, chances are they won't switch. And it worked well for Windows. They became the dominant operating system. They just got it out the door as quickly as possible. Do you prefer Laravel or Spring MVC, and where there are more jobs in Spring, and where there are more jobs? Well, again, just look up where you happen to live in the world. New York, I don't know, Düsseldorf, Germany, I don't know, wherever. Tokyo, Japan. Just look at the job listings and see where the demand is. Personally, even though I wrote a lot of Java in my day, and I even developed my own framework in the day, I would not write anything new in Java. It's too slow in terms of write time. It runs fast. It's a very good language, very good infrastructure, but exceedingly complex and verbose. Whereas if you could jump into the later, nimbler stacks, like the LAMP stack, which is PHP based, or JavaScript, or with the Node Express, you're just going to be much more productive. All right, how are we doing? All right, guys, 50 minutes. I'm losing my voice and I want to go watch a film. All right, so I appreciate you jumping on, and I appreciate all the thumbs up, guys. And I think I'll do another live stream sometime this week. So there you go. Okay, I'll do this one last one here. Hi, I have a question. How much JavaScript should I learn before a framework? And what kind of project should I practice before that as a beginner? Thanks. Just do my JavaScript course, and then you'll be ready to learn any framework you want. And that's it. In a nutshell, you should understand the basic constructs of the language. You should understand the DOM. You should be able to walk the DOM, and a few little things here and there. And then you're good. All right. Thanks for joining the stream. I forget that Sawatita. I forget my tie. It's been a long time. Cheers. Code long and profit, my friends. Take care. We'll talk soon. I'll put my little track on. Hold on. Where is it? Here we go.